The Bracer Guild, one of the most respected organizations in all of Western Zemuria. Whenever someone needs help, no matter the problem, as long as it's not illegal and political, the guild is always there. Unlike the militaries, Bracer work with fewer restrictions, bound only by their code of honor and their dedication for the people. Their members rise through the ranks, from junior to A class, but beyond that lie a rank so rare, it's almost mythical. S rank. Only 4 individuals in all of Zemuria have ever achieved it, and one of them was Cassius Bright. Hello everyone, it's me, your storyteller Pandragon, and welcome back to another episode of Chronicles of Zemuria. We talked about Renne before. Now it's time to uncover the story of her adoptive father. A man with a legendary mustache, a tactical genius, who saved his kingdom and paid an heavy price for it. Today, we're diving into the life of Cassius Bright. From soldier to S-rank bracer, and back to soldier. As always, beware of spoiler from Trail in the Skies and the Cold Seal Saga. Now, let's begin. In the year S 1144, a boy named Cassius Bright was born to humble parents in the kingdom of Mille. From a young age, he was fascinated by the royal army and dreamed of one day joining its rank to protect his homeland. As he grew older, he devoted himself to training with the sword, eventually enlisting in the army as an adult. His natural talent, discipline, and tactical brilliance propelled him quickly through the rank, soon earning the title of colonel. His reputation spread throughout Mille and even beyond. One day his name reached the ears of young Kapai, master of the 8-leaf one-blade school. Intrigued, Yun sought him out, challenging him to a duel, and was impressed enough to take him on as a disciple. Cassius trained under Yun's tutelage, mastering the art of the divine blade and becoming one himself. During his service, Cassius befriended Crow Prince Eudes and later took on several promising students, among them Alan Richard and Julia Schwartz. He had particularly high hope for Alan, believing he might one day reach the level of a divine blade himself. Outside his duty, Cassius met a kind and spirited woman named Lena, and before long the two married. They soon welcomed a daughter, Estelle, and for a time Cassius Bright seemed to have everything: a family, honor, and peace. But that peace will not last. Near Mille's southern border lay a small, peaceful village called Amel. However, due to the influence of Ishmael's curse, the noble family of Erebonia had grown even more greedy and ambitious. Among them was Rudolph Arundel, who fell under the manipulation of Wise Man, one of Ouroboros' linguists, whispering poison into Arundel's ear. Wise Man set in motion a tragedy that would change Zemuria forever. A group of soldiers disguised in Liberalian uniform attacked Amel, slaughtering the villager and leaving behind falsified evidence. When the Imperial Army discovered the supposed Liberalian weapon, they believed the lie and declare war. The 100-Day War had begun. Erebonia forces stormed across the border, obliterating Achen Gate and tearing through liberal defenses with overwhelming power. Within days, the small kingdom was nearly overrun. Only Grancel and Leyston Fortress managed to hold out against the Imperial advance. Libel sought aid from Calvard, but Erebonia Blitz was so swift that help could not arrive in time. Still, Libel did not surrender. Behind the fortress wall, Cassius Bright, General Morgan, and Alan Richard prepare a desperate counterattack. Their secret weapon, the newly developed patrol ship, equipped with advanced naval technology that outclassed Erebonia tanks and air unit. When the time came, Cassius led the counteroffensive himself. Libel force struck hard and fast, reclaiming key territories and turning the tide of war. Reinforcements from Calvard and other nations soon arrived, and with mounting pressure from the Septimian Church and the Bracer Guild, Erebonia was forced to surrender. After 100 days, the war finally ended. A peace treaty was signed at the Royal Villa, where General Morgan and General Van Dyck shook hands. The Empire offered an official apology, calling it a grievous error born from a tragic misunderstanding. But victory came at a devastating cost. During one of the final bombardments, Libel Clock Tower was hit. Cassius' wife, Lena, shielded their daughter Estelle from the collapsing debris, and was killed in the process. Cassius never forgave himself. Grief striking, he left the army, laying down his sword and the 8-leaf one-blade style forever. Instead, he chose to become a bracer, believing it was the best way to protect his daughter and atone for the life lost. He trained under Dan Russo to master the bow staff, and in time became one of the most renowned bracers in Zemuria, a man whose name inspired all who heard it. During the late S-1190, a dark cult began abducting children, as young as 5, across Zemuria, most notably in Calvard. Known as the GG cult, this group rejected the goddess Helios and worshipped a demon instead. They used the kidnapped children as test subjects for horrific experiment in the name of their ceremony. The cult goal was to perfect a drug called genosis, a substance that could dramatically enhance the body, mind, and spirit of its user. As the kidnapping grew, the authorities could no longer ignore them. An international investigation team was formed, uniting the army, police, force, the Ground Rider of the Septimian Church, and representative of the Bracer Guild. Among them were Zin Vadek of Calvard, and the man chosen to lead the operation, Cassius Bright, a rank bracer and former colonel of the Liberal Royal Army. Cassius' tactical expertise and leadership would soon prove vital. Through their investigation, they discovered that the kidnapping were the work of the GG cult, a secret organization performing human experiments across 10 separate lodges. Each lodge was conducting its own twisted research with genosis, summoning demons, using people with artifacts, and experimenting on children. Cassius coordinated a simultaneous assault on all 10 lodges, dividing the team into multiple strike groups. Among these were Arius McLean, Sergei Liu, and Guy Banning of the Crossbelt Police, who led the raid near Altair, a border city between Crossbelt and Calvard. It was there that Guy rescued Theo Plato, only 8 years old at the time, one of the few survivors of the experiments. Elsewhere, Gunther Barkhorn, the 8th Dominion of the Grawl Rider, led the church's own raid and discovered another survivor, a 13-year-old boy. Another child was found in a cave near the Paradise Lodge, one that had been mysteriously destroyed before the team arrived. Though the raid succeeded, the aftermath was grim. Most cultists either took their own life or suffered complete mental collapse, and countless mutilated corpses of children were found among the ruins. The operation successfully wiped out the GG code, but its details were locked away as top secret due to their disturbing nature. For his role as Supreme Commander and for bringing an end to one of Zemuria's darkest chapters, Cassius Bright was promoted to S rank, becoming only the 4th S rank bracer in history. Not long after the fall of the GG code, the Ouroboros Society began preparing the first phase of their gospel plan. The operation, led by the 3rd Anguist, George Wiseman, aimed to obtain the Septarion of Space, the Oriole, hidden somewhere in Libelle. But one man posed a threat to their plan, Cassius Bright. To eliminate him, Wiseman sent enforcer number 13, the Black Fang, Joshua Astre, to assassinate him. However, the missions failed. Cassius easily overpowered Joshua, breaking the boy mask and revealing his face. Realizing the mission was compromised, Wiseman sent other operatives to silence Joshua. Instead, Cassius saved him. Moved by pity, he took the wounded boy home and introduced him to his daughter Estelle. In time, Cassius adopted Joshua as his own son, raising both him and Estelle together. But unknown to Cassius, this too was part of Wiseman's plan. Joshua had been brainwashed to forget his past and unknowingly served as Ouroboros' spy, reporting everything he learned about Cassius to the society. At some point, Ouroboros found a way to send Cassius away from Libelle so they can start their plan. 5 years later, Estelle and Joshua had grown into promising young bracers. After completing their exam and becoming full-fledged members, they went on their first mission, a rescue operation at Esmeralda's Tower. When Estelle was ambushed by a monster, Cassius arrived just in time to save her. Soon after, Cassius received a letter, a request for help from the Bracer Guild of Erebonia. He departed the next morning, leaving behind tasks for Estelle and Joshua, and writing to Saint Vadek to watch over them in his absence. By the time he reached Amdar, the Imperial capital was in chaos. The Bracer Guild and quarter there, along with 6 other branches across Erebonia, had been destroyed by an unknown group. Acting as provisional representative of the Imperial Guilds, Cassius began coordinating relief and counterattack efforts. Meanwhile, the intelligence division of the Erebonian army placed Cassius under AV surveillance. His record as a strategist behind Lebel's counter-offensive during the 100-Day War made him a high-level threat to Imperial security. Despite this, Cassius reached out to the intelligence division itself, offering cooperation in exchange for operational freedom. Through investigation, he learned that their attacker were a Jaeger corps known as Chester. With A-rank bracer Sarah Wallenstein unreachable in Northumbria, the guild needed Cassius' leadership more than ever. After weeks of dead ends, Cassius devised a strategy. He sent the intelligence division two messages, one plain, one encrypted. The first was a decoy, feeding the Jaeger false information. The second was a detailed plan for the Imperial Army to trap them. As expected, the Jester took the bait. They walked right into Cassius' ambush, were surrounded and forced to surrender. The confession revealed the location of all remaining bases, which were swiftly destroyed. Though the operation was a complete success, the Imperial government quietly raised Cassius' threat level, even higher, classifying him as severe danger to national security should he ever return to Erebonia. With the crisis over, Cassius returned home, only to find that his former student, Colonel Alan Richard, unleashed a coup d'etat in Lebel. Learning of the coup, Cassius moved quickly. He helped General Morgan and Lieutenant Sid escape custody to retake command of the Royal Army, then infiltrated Grandside Castle to stop Richard's plan. Arriving just in time, he saved Alan from being killed by Reverie, then ordered Estelle and her allies to finish the fight. With Reverie defeated, Cassius confronted Alan, punching him and shooting for him to abandon his illusion. He blamed himself for leaving the army too soon, realizing that Richard hadn't been ready to take his place. In Cassius' own word, he was not a hero, merely a man who had been running from reality, from duty, and for protecting what mattered the most. This time he chose not to run. When peace returned, Cassius appeared at the Queen's birthday celebration, escorting Queen Alicia and Princess Claudia in full uniform. Later he officially promoted Estelle and Joshua to senior bracer, ending them with their new emblem. After the crisis in Lebel came to an end, Cassius Bright announced his resignation from the Bracer Guild and his return to the Royal Army. His goal was clear: to rebuild the army from the ground up and ensure that Lebel will never again face such devastation. He was immediately reinstated with the rank of Brigadier General. That same evening, following the victory celebration at Grandside Castle, Estelle informed him that Joshua had disappeared. Cassius then revealed to her what he knew about Joshua's past and the secret society known as Ouroboros, whose scheme threatened not just Lebel, but all of Zemuria. Thought he could personally join the search, bound by his duty to reorganize the army, he gave his full support to Estelle's resolve to find Joshua. Later he paired with Julia Swartz to gauge her progress, praising her sharp technique and growth since her days of training under him. When General Morgan challenging him next, Cassius smiled and told him to let the young have their moment. When the Lebel arc appeared, plunging Lebel and part of Erebonia into a full-scale orbital shutdown, chaos erupted. The Erebonian Empire assumed it was an attack and began mobilizing troops toward Icon Gates. Knowing the true identity of Oliver Ellenheim, Cassius collaborated with him to prevent a war. Disguised as Prince Oliver, Olivier and Mille arrived at the border, where Cassius helped broker a tense deal. Erebonia would grant Libel 3 days to resolve the Libel Arc incident or face invasion. Before Estelle and Joshua set up for the Arc, Cassius sent Joshua a letter detailing a method to break the stigma Wiseman had placed on him. When Wiseman later tried to control Joshua and failed, he realized that Cassius had been behind his loss of influence, and his fury knew no bound. As the Arc began to collapse after Wiseman's defeat, Cassius rode atop the Dragon Ragnar, pursuing Estelle and Joshua as they fell from the crumbling structure. With Ouroboros defeated and peace restored, Cassius attended the celebration at Krenzel Castle, where Estelle and Joshua informed him of their plan to journey abroad. He gave his blessing with pride, but later he received a letter from them. They wished to adopt Renne, a former Ouroboros enforcer. Cassius agreed wholeheartedly, believing everyone deserved a second chance. Years later, the Chancellor Osborne prepared for a global war under the curse of Ishmelga. Duchess Mildine de Cayenne organized a massive counteroffensive, Operation Mirage, to unite all those who opposed the war. Libel joined the coalition, and Cassius served as the supreme commander of the operation, accompanying Princess Claudia aboard the Pantagruel. There, he reunited with his children, then reached Walser, another disciple of the 8-leaf One-Blade School, under the same master, Yon Kapai. During the meeting, Cassius laid out the strategy Mirage, who would rally all force outside Erebonia, including the Calvarian Army, the Royal Army of Libel, the Wiseman Resistance, and more to counter Operation Jormungand. Though the plan was bold, it would also lead to enormous bloodshed. Many, including the Bracer Guild, Class 7, and the SSS, disagreed with the approach. When Ouroboros force attacked the Pantagruel mid-conference, Cassius remarked that perhaps a third option existed amidst the chaos. And at that moment, the impossible happened. Prince Oliver, long thought dead, returned aboard his new flagship, the Radiant Wings. His counterplan Operation Shining Steel aimed to stop the war at its very core and to end the curse without mass conflict. Before the Great War erupted, Cassius took a brief respite at Mission in Wonderland with his friend and children. There he received a letter from Master Jung, who believed that Renne was ready to undergo the Divine Blade trial, with Cassius serving as his representative. Renne succeeded, earning the title of Divine Blade. The next day, Cassius faced General Van Dyck, the commander of Operation Jormungand, on the battlefield. But thanks to Operation Shining Steel, eliminating the true mastermind behind the war, the two men agreed to cease fire, just 2 days after hostility began. And after the Great War, Cassius took a well-deserved break with his 3 children, Estelle, Joshua, and Renne, spending their holidays in the peaceful village of Ymir. It was the first time Cassius and Renne had truly spent time together since our adoption. And given both their past, it took a little while for them to open up. But as the day went by, their bond slowly deepened. During the trip, Cassius struck up a friendship with Theo Walser, Renne's father, as the two share a common love for fishing. He also had a heartfelt conversation with Joshua about his plan to marry Estelle, and gave him his blessing with a proud smile. The quiet vacation didn't stay peacefully for long, though. Gilbert showed up causing trouble for no particular reason. Cassius promptly set him flying with a single swing of his staff. Thanks to Rand's quick calculation, they redeterred Gilbert's inevitable explosion, somewhere harmless. Saving the area from damage, the teamwork between father and daughter brought them closer than ever. Sometime later, Cassius entered the Erebonia martial art tournament, teaming up with Zach Vander. Together they managed to defeat Craig the Red and Wallace Bardias, but ultimately lost for the legendary duo Arias McLean and Victor Arcade. When the crisis of the Retributive Tower unfolded in Crossbell, Cassius joined the mission aboard the RCL-2, lending his strength to the hero who fought to save the world from Elysium. After that, Cassius returned to Libelle, and his current whereabouts remain unknown. Perhaps he continued serving as a general of the Royal Army, ever vigilant in protecting his homeland. And that's, my friend, is the story of Cassius Bright, the hero of the 100-Day War, the father Estelle Bright and one of Zemuria's greatest tacticians. He's done so much for Libelle and the world at large, yet since returning to the army, he's taken a quieter role behind the scene. Though he only appeared briefly after the Sky arc, including a short appearance at the end of Cold Steel 4, Cassius remained one of the series' most respected figures. But what do you think? Do you believe you would see Cassius again in future Trail games? Maybe even in Beyond the Horizon 2? Or the final arc of Zemuria? Let me know your thoughts in the comment below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this lore deep dive and want to see more episodes in my Trail lore series, as well as my weekly game trivia short. If you're into walkthrough, review, and live stream, check out my second channel, Chronicles Valimar Gaming, link down below. I stream most evening around 7 PM EST. Thank you so much for watching, and may Adios be with you. Dragon Valimar, offline.